We're live and on the air. I'd like to welcome everybody to Truth Hurts, where today and tonight, rather, we are going to cover Netflix's most recent series, Altered Carbon, the ultra violent and ultra sexy and ultra well written, albeit transhumanism predictive programming show. Oh my God, it's over the top. And joining me is Fear Porn Propaganda, and we're gonna sit here and disseminate the entire
What up,
season.
y'all?
How you doing, buddy?
Also known as conspiracy or conspiracy, whatever.
Conspiracy.
And wisecraft. Yeah, conspiracy and wisecraft with a K. Both of those have K.
How clever. So, all right, I gave the show a rewatch, and you've seen it very recently as well. I will warn people, however, if you haven't seen the show Altered Carbon or read the book, I highly recommend to turn away now, close your browser, watch the show before you listen to this podcast, because it is heavily laden with spoilers. Yes, we are going to disseminate the entire season and pretty much cover every major plot point. So, yeah, if you haven't seen the show, do yourself a favor and go and watch it first before you listen in tonight. You can always come back onto YouTube and rewatch this. So, what did you think of the show there?
Oh, as a sci-fi enthusiast, I enjoyed it. I definitely saw the predictive programming elements of it and the occult references throughout. But I tried to just watch it as a show, not get too intertwined into that,
Right.
so I can understand the storyline and follow through with whatever was going on with the character development, which was really deep, and you would have to know all of the deep elements of who's switching who bodies and things like that, and especially when they're doing flashback scenes and things.
Absolutely. Actually, I have to say, it's one of the few stories I've seen in a while that have probably more backstory than actual running plot. It's 10 episodes long, and I think 5 or 6 of the episodes are pretty much only backstory.
Yeah, I agree. You even said it takes place within a week.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Chronologically.
Yeah. Chronologically speaking, even if that, it's really only 3 or 4 days. Now, for those of you who have seen the show, and if you haven't seen the show, then you're a silly ass for watching this podcast. But basically, what we're dealing with is it's a show about living forever, transferring your consciousness from body to body, which in the context of the show they're called sleeves, where one will grow a clone of somebody's body, and you just basically insert a chip into their back of their neck, basically. And
but you should also say the ode to the stack, because you explained to me with C programming. I looked into that. That was quite interesting.
Yeah, they call it a stack, which I think, what did the DHF stand for again? It's a digital human file fingerprint. I can't remember what it actually.
Yeah, I think so.
Something along those lines. Yeah. So a DHF download places somebody's consciousness into this chip, which they call the stack.
I would think of it like a digital DNA.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Now, the whole stack concept basically is where your consciousness, everything that your mind, and in an esoteric sense, your soul, I guess you would say, would be put onto this chip, which can be swapped from sleeve to sleeve, and it's quite a concept, actually, if you think about it, because sleeves can die, yet the stack remains. unless of course you have blunt force trauma to the stack or energy weapons get used, as it's stated in the very first episode in the expositionary statement there, which in and of itself actually is interesting, because in that first opening scene where the main character wakes up in his new sleeve, he asks the question, how long was he under for? Which I believe was 250 years.
Yes, yes.
And yet, when you see the flashback scenes of the character, his name is Takeshi, he basically has already been swapping sleeves for many years prior to his 250 years being on ice. So we really don't have any concept of what year this even really is. I think they were very careful at not
it's definitely
telling you.
Distant future. that's what we get.
Definitely distant future. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I mean, even the time when he flashbacks to is like some sort of future from us.
For us, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Because there's a high-tech element that we don't have.
Yes. And in that exposition, they basically wake up on not Rikers, it was Alcatraz. Yes, it was Alcatraz where they wake up, and a holographic host, I guess you could say, gives a little bit of a synopsis and says, you're not in the same body that you went to sleep in. And in fact, and then explains what the sleeves and stacks are. And I found it rather entertaining, actually, to be fair. But the interesting bit about Takeshi's character, though, is that in a flashback sequence that we see a couple episodes in, he basically saves his younger sister from an abusive father who had apparently already murdered his mom. And well, long story short, shoots his father in the stack, which is a thing in this show. and basically ends up getting caught, and isn't upset that he got caught for killing his father, because he knew that his sister was protected now. And yet they go and take his young consciousness and give him a second chance by putting him into the military, which they call CTAX in this particular show. And his young consciousness ends up being put into an adult male and then shipped all over what I reckon is the solar system, to the other colonized worlds to fight for the CTAC military, which is also in itself kind of scary.
Yeah, and I also noticed that there was no aliens.
No, just the sister looked oddly alien.
Yeah,
but that was just her face.
We're like 250 years plus in the future, and still no aliens. Definitely an agenda involved in that.
Yeah.
There is immortality and transhumanism, and you know what I mean, and switching bodies and holographic memories and what do you call it? VR fucking tortures.
Oh, VR torture. That's another subject that we get through. We could probably just go on for 45 minutes.
Talk about torture porn. You know what I mean? Talk about torture porn. That is the extreme torture porn right there.
Absolutely. Just when you thought waterboarding was bad, wait to see what they do in this show. It's absolutely insane. Yeah. And also, jumping ahead a little bit, there was a comment from one of the characters, Lizzie. She ends up making a statement where she goes, Poe, yes, Edgar Allan Poe makes an appearance in this show as well, but we'll explain that as well. Yeah, but Poe goes and basically puts her in VR training mode, where weeks can pass by in mere hours inside of VR land. So
what was wrong with her? Why was she in that state?
Why was she in that state?
Yeah, before Edgar Allan Poe was able to kind of bring her out of that state. Why was she in that kind of hyper? I don't know. I want to say like almost like autistic state, but in the VR world?
Well, that's a great question. Now, I just got through that yesterday. I'm just trying to remember because the mom got taken away. The mom was killed, and they couldn't afford a sleeve for the mom. The father, I think the only way the father was able to rescue her daughter was by putting her into a stack and basically kind of left her in a state of limbo, in a last state where that she remembers being in, which was basically curled up in an alleyway,
Right.
Abused and kind of in a sort of stasis, I guess you could say. And it was the only state that he was able to keep her in order to save her. Well, I guess you could say her consciousness or her life. But yeah, they kind of glossed over that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I was wondering if it was like, you know, just to keep the character development obscure.
Yeah, they did a good job of keeping that character a bit obscure, mind you. But I think it was to set up the larger plot line where she would become basically a super ninja assassin type.
Yeah, and it was also to set up that virtual space to show the viewers the virtual space exists and that they can manipulate it.
Yes, absolutely. Now,
but as what I was wondering is the people that are able to be restacked. What are they doing in their stasis period? Like, are they living a virtual state or something like that? Like, they didn't really give us that. I was wondering what was happening. Like, are they in a coma? You know, they have no memory of the in between times.
No,
before they're switching from sleeve to sleeve.
I think there's absolutely there's no consciousness.
Like Takeshi was dreaming, right?
In where?
Before he woke up, wasn't he dreaming?
No. That was strictly exposition for us. You got to remember too.
See, I thought that was kind of like a backstory dream thing.
Well, if you remember, the father had to activate the stack. Remember, he had to put it into some kind of neuro gel. Remember, he had the stack sitting on a mantelpiece.
Yeah,
and he had to put it into a neuro gel in order to connect with it to see his daughter. So
that's true.
She had no.
So you need like some sort of certain interface, almost like a console or something, some sort of thing that brings you in. You can't just do it with a stack. You need extra stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. The stack has to be put into something in order for it to be interacted, like in an input-output stream, I guess you could say.
So I think that's a good introduction. When are you? I want you to get to the beginning, the whole first 10 minutes, like, you know, how it's like with the whole dragon and the thing, and you know what I mean?
Oh, when
you explain that really cool.
In the opening credits, the opening credits are very bizarre because it goes into well, it's like it's an animated sequence, and I still can't get the symbology out of my head because it shows a snake coiling up around a woman who's losing her skin. Her skin's flying off as if she's shedding her skin, and you see the snake going up and up and around her body, and somehow she's got wings as well. You know, it looks like the old medic alert bracelet symbol, you know, the whole snake going up the staff, and it's very, very symbolic in that sense. But then the snake,
the caduceus.
That's it.
Which goes back to Rosicrucians. That's the Rosicrucian symbol.
And then
that's why the medical people use it these days.
Well, the snake turns into a dragon and flips itself into basically an Ouroboros, but it's an infinity symbol and an Ouroboros kind of combined. Very, very bizarre.
But it's up, not sideways.
Exactly.
So it's like it actually forms the letter A. It also could be symbolizing the sand. The what do you call it? What do you call those things? The sand, the glass goes through the sand.
The hourglass, yes.
it could be representing that too, which is again time.
Well, and yeah, and I mean, in essence, with this technology that they're purporting in the show, it's it's like a power struggle between the haves and the have-nots. And of course, the haves have all the money, and therefore they have the ability to live forever, essentially. They can just throw out their sleeves and keep growing new ones and essentially just live forever, which pretty much brings us to the setup for the entire plot, where you have a rich character who is murdered. And most
like
people,
a Rockefeller.
pretty much, yeah. I guess his last name in the show is Bancroft, so it's very yeah, very similar. Now, he doesn't remember what happened to himself because his body, or his consciousness rather, is set to automatically back up every 24 hours. Now, if now he has multiple backups of his consciousness, which is interesting because the not so rich don't have this ability. You know, your sleeve is your sleeve. You lose your sleeve.
And he has multiple clones.
That's right. And he also had multiple staffs as well. Like if he suffered,
exactly, he has like extra.
Yeah, if he suffered a real death, he had his DHF backed up and could be put into a new clone up to the most recent backup of himself. And this comes into major play later on near the end of the season, as we learn when somebody does something called double sleeving. But we'll get into that a little later.
Yeah, that's a whole different boat.
Yeah. It gets really crazy later on in the show when you start looking at the implications. Mind you, it's also one of the holes in the plot I kind of felt. Now, I just
I know what you're talking about. We'll get into that.
Yeah, I'd like to say hello to Wake Up Now. He's in the chat there. I just glanced over and just saw him. He's in there.
What up?
And anyway, how you doing, buddy? But yeah, what we got here is this Rockefeller type, Mr. Bancroft. He's murdered, and he doesn't remember what happened to himself because his last staff wasn't able to DHF back up, and pretty much he's just another murdered guy. So he ends up hiring this other guy to investigate his murder and pulls this one guy off of ice. He's been kind of, I don't know, out for 250 years, something like that. And that's where we get to this other character, Takeshi. Now, we have no idea why he's pulled off of ice after 250 years. Until a little bit later when we find out who manipulated the system to get him out. However, of course, he's just the guy who gets the job, and he's going to get a pardon for helping this guy out. Now, pardon from what, you might ask? Well, this is where we get into another complex scenario dealing with his past life before he was put on ice. Now, this is going to his involvement with a terrorist organization called the Envoys. And we learn that he joins the Envoys when he finds out that one of the jobs he sent on with the military is to basically go and wipe out a group of Akuza, who his sister happens to work for. And then, reunited with his sister, he decides to fight at her side, and they end up going rogue, where they find the Envoys, and they end up training the pair of them to do other stuff and basically live in the woods. But would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I agree.
Would you like to add anything to the plot there?
No, I think you got it.
All right. Okay, so now that we got that little bit of a setup going, you have this character Takeshi, who's in Like I said, he's not in his regular sleeve. He's in another gentleman's sleeve who has a reputation with the police force. So, of course, when Takeshi goes into this other gentleman's sleeve, his ex-girlfriend, the very, very sexy Captain Ortega, she ends up catching wind of this and just
Yeah.
kind of keeps on chasing him down to find out more. So you can start seeing there's a bit of a triangle happening here, even if a virtual one, because the sleeve that Takeshi's in belongs to a guy named Riker, and Riker has his own past and other bad guys that didn't like him as well. And well, of course, I love that scene, the fight scene at the fight drome, where
oh yeah, that was.
they're like Riker. He's like, I'm not fucking Riker. But anyway, I digress. There's a lot of really, really interesting characters that start getting introduced, getting into episodes 3, 4, and 5. There's the Ghost Walker, who's basically kind of
that was trippy because he would like not be seen in the video. Like they would like try to look for him and you couldn't find him in the video until they were really looking quickly, and then they saw there was like a weird image there that shouldn't be there.
He was able to delete himself from video, which is really interesting technology. Well, actually, yeah. Well, that kind of stuff exists now.
It does.
So it's not even that far fetched, to be fair. I was kind of let down at some of the
whole person moving different places and from multiple cameras. That's difficult. That's difficult. Like I could understand somebody recording live and then erasing something while they're recording it.
Well, it depends on how they're shooting.
But being caught on like a surveillance camera, for instance, and erasing yourself, that's kind of difficult.
You know who he reminded me of, actually? There's an antagonist from the show Johnny Mnemonic. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Oh yeah.
There's a bad guy who's assassin.
Like on Cyberpunk. That's another Cyberpunk movie.
That totally, absolutely. Very, very, very cool. I mean, without good bad guys, you just don't have a decent show, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. So moving forward, though, we've got this technology that allows people to basically transfer, body to body, sleeve to sleeve, as you would.
Wait, before you continue, I want you to explain something to me. The beginning of that, right after the sequence of, I think it's a fight sequence, and then there's like a shower sequence, and in the shower they're like all bloody, and they're like wiping off their blood, but there's also stacks. What does that symbolize? Does that mean that they took them out of people?
I think so. Because
were they live people or dead people? Is what I was trying to figure out.
Well, I reckon
because you watched it twice. I only watched it once.
Yeah. Well, that did gloss over that bit too. I have a feeling that they took them out of living sleeves. I think they literally ripped them out. I think they were sleeve farming. See,
I think you're right.
There's still more backstory, I think, that they're left to explain, because we never did learn who that blonde girl was, why he was there, and why they were fighting for their life when SeaTac came to attack them. It was an interesting 10-minute kind of a backtrack, I guess you could say, or flashback rather. But yeah, no, they were definitely cleaning themselves of they were just covered in blood and it looked like brain tissue and stuff. It was pretty horrible.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, it symbolized there was like an extreme battle or something, and it was all on them.
Yeah, they got it all over themselves for sure.
But I mean, their stacks were also on them, so I was like, how is that? Like, you know what I mean? Like it was a little weird.
Yeah, no.
And it was like the shower part was like making them fall off their bodies, which it was like stuck to their body, kind of like as if there was like, maybe because of the blood. It was stuck. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It was like the blood was creating a glue, especially when dry.
Yeah, I think they were just covered in all sorts of bits that came off of other people. But maybe they were into
and he was in his body at that moment, you know. Because we learned later on that he's not even like that old at that time.
I wonder if that might have been
several bodies before he got his actual body.
Maybe that was a flashback of Riker, because Riker was involved in some pretty dodgy shit before he got put down too.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that scene again.
Yeah,
because I thought it was Takeshi, his body that you're seeing in the shower or whatever.
Might have been. I can't remember now.
Also, with these because Takeshi had tattoos, right?
Well, yeah, because he ended up getting that. He got the tattoo of the figure 8 Ouroboros on his arm after he got his new sleeve.
And when they cloned his body had the same tattoos. I thought that was a little strange.
When they cloned which body, the Riker body or the Takeshi body?
No, Takeshi. But when it was in Matt Fuhrer's, I forget that guy's name, but like the guy with the hair, it played by Matt Fuhrer, Max Headroom dude.
Oh, interesting.
Basically, where you buy the clones from.
Yeah, I found that character quite odd, to be fair.
He was very odd, but I mean, he grew on me eventually. Like at first, I was like, "Wow, this is a weird character for Matt Fuhrer to play." But then I looked back and I was like, "He's always playing weird characters."
Oh, he's the original Max Headroom. I mean, and it's almost
exactly.
It was like
it just seems natural for him to play some sort of weird character.
It seemed almost like a reprisal in a weird way, because I think that was the closest he's ever been to looking like Max Headroom since the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to remember too is that there's another technology where they have synthoids, and synthoids are able to change their appearance, which Max's
that's
character,
right. You're talking about those. They were like shapeshifters.
Yes, they're able to shapeshift themselves, which is shown later on with Elizabeth's character. Because she takes one of the
I remember what you're talking about. Yeah, and that fits in because they basically led that up to that. Like they set it up so you basically once she gets her body, you'd be oh, okay, that's why she does that.
That was some setup with some payoff, yeah, because she takes a prostitute's synthetic body and
turns it into
herself. Yeah.
Now, but then she keeps it at the end.
Then she keeps it that way at the end, which. I don't know. This is where, you have to kind of suspend belief a little bit and just go with the flow as far as the show goes.
That was another thing. Was that her original body that we were looking at? Like the one that she like flips into and the one in the VR? Or is that just her last sleeve she had and she just keeps that image?
Well, I think that was her birth body as they call it.
Because like when Riker was in when Kovacs was in the VR torture thing, he was him. He wasn't Takashi. He was Riker.
Yeah, there's something that I didn't like about the show, to be fair, and you just kind of nailed it right there. And is that the consistency wasn't there. Because in the very beginning, when they pull Takeshi off of ice and he's in Riker's body, he asks for a mirror. And in the reflection, he sees his old self as if that's what he envisions, right? Which I thought was cool. Yeah. And then, but however,
then it melts away. It was kind of creative the way they did that.
Yeah. But in VR land,
it should have been him.
It should have
been his consciousness.
Yeah, and they did it again later when they brought back the black guy's wife, and the only sleeve they had was some other dude. So they put the guy's wife into some other guy, and he ends up going into VR land to see the daughter Elizabeth, and quite frankly, I think that he should have been able, or sorry, she should have been able to project herself as she originally looked in at least VR land. I thought there's a bit of an inconsistency there in the plot, because in VR land you should project whatever digital fingerprint is you. Essentially, the sleeve is only your representation, and in the corporeal world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like wearing a glove to these people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think of it as like a whole person or a personality that they're taking over or anything like that.
No, it's just putting on a new suit, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So it's quite disgusting that way. In that, you know, the way that we live versus now, you know, then versus now kind of like thing. I'm looking at it from that perspective and thinking if we actually do go that direction, that's pretty sick.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, and there's a really good line there when the attorney, the black woman that plays the attorney there, Kovacs, basically when he gives his speech on who done it, because after all, this is a murder mystery, and he goes and gives this long-winded speech to frame that other woman, to basically put her away, the attorney. He goes and says, have you ever used this sleeve before? She's like, oh yeah, I've got many sleeves. It's a perk of my job. It's one of the perks. And
yeah, that was quite another, like,
it's almost disgusting. It's kind of like
it's messed up on an elite format, you know, because of, you know, the poor do not experience this stuff.
No,
but in the show.
But if you're rich and you want to go out as a Caucasian blonde, yeah, you know, just put on a new suit and off you go.
Oh, well, what about when when the wife of the Bancroft just has a daughter, and the daughter takes her body out for a spin?
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on in the show too, because even the son does it.
Yeah, but oh yeah, that's right. I was thinking of the other thing.
No.
So yeah, the son does it too.
You're thinking about the sister, yeah. Well, we learn later on that like 4 or 5 of the faces that we've seen in the show had been Kovacs' sister the entire time.
Yeah, I know. That was so like right in your face, especially when she walks by and you see each of the things, but she doesn't say anything yet.
Yeah, well,
I was like, wait a minute, I remember those people showing up.
Yeah, you see the clone bays, and you see like there's like 4 different, like one's a little girl, like the 9-year-old little girl.
That's the one in the elevator, I believe.
Yeah, that's later on in the elevator when Captain Ortega, she thinks that she's one, and there's this little girl in the elevator.
Mm-hmm. And it's her.
Yeah, it's just her all over again. Yeah,
you know, I was skeptical with the sister when she first popped up and was like ripping people apart. I was like, okay, wait,
that was the best
ninja.
That's the best entrance I think I've seen in a show. I have to say, hands down.
But I knew she wasn't like, you know, protagonist, or, you know, I knew she was an antagonist, like from that moment. Like I was like, okay, but even though, you know, it was like they were trying to humanize her by going back in time and then showing him like help her and do the thing, and how deeply she felt for him.
Well, I knew something.
And I was wondering how old she was because of the element. I mean, obviously 250 years later, she was like that old. But like in the past, did she get multiple bodies before, you know, because of like where she was at and who she owned and all of that? Because it was like she basically owned that pie in that sky like horror place.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into that. I think the turning point for the sister was when she ended up selling out the envoys. She's the one who brought the SeaTac army straight to their encampment on. I think it's a Saturn moon. I'm not sure exactly where they were, but I do believe it was a Saturn moon just by looking at the sky there, because you can see Saturn in the.
Gotta have Saturn.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, gotta have Saturnalia. But when she sells out the envoys, the terrorist group that's living in the woods there, that's when they backed her up. And she also backed up the other woman as well, because I guess, I don't know, it seemed like a convenient plot twist, but I guess she looked at it as
and what I was trying to figure out, because they don't show her with the envoys until after the fact. So it's like after you've already seen him with the envoys for a while, then they start showing her there. And you're like, oh, wait, she was there the whole time?
You see her briefly. You just see her weird looking alien Asian face.
Oh yeah, but you don't have any context. You don't know that she's his sister at that moment.
That's right. It's not until I think episode 5 or 6. And then once they concentrate on Takeshi's backstory with his sister, I kind of had it pegged right away. I was like, okay, she's behind this whole thing.
Yeah, me too. But I wanted to see how it was going to play out, and it played out very nicely with the whole extra clone thing and like how rich she really was and everything like that.
Well, see, she only got that way after I think she sold out the envoys, because once she sold them out, remember her statement was, "They gave me life."
But her whole thing with him was like that she did it for him and that she wanted him to come back.
Yeah, well, I think she was just worried about his and her safety. You got to remember that he was supposed to give up all contact with her after killing their father. He was taken away and put straight into the military. And had to cut all ties with her because they basically gave him a brand new life.
Yeah, but then when he joined the envoys, she was able to go with him.
They got found together. That's what happened. They got captured by the envoys first.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm like joined, but I mean, it's like they kind of like forcibly joined.
Yeah. They adapted.
Didn't really have a choice.
No, it was that or die, pretty much. but
yeah, exactly.
But this is the thing,
because he was military. I mean, it's like taking the military and going like, you got to join the other tide.
He was able to convert. Yeah, he was able to convert over to the envoys, while she just thought survival through and through. If you understand,
but she wasn't military like he was.
No,
so it's like. He got several bodies before he ended up joining the envoy, but did she? That's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah. Well, he didn't get his body back until he was well into his adult years.
Yeah, exactly. But he already had been in the military and gotten like several medals and things. By that time. That's why he got his body back.
That's right. And when he got his body back, remember there's a state, it was like, well, there's more mileage than I would have cared for, but reflexes are still good.
It's like, it's a little older than I wanted it to be.
Yeah. But so that said, I kind of had it pegged that the sister wasn't all that she claimed to be. I mean, they could have given you all the backstory in the first. But the lead up, had me suspicious, I must say. So
backgrounds were interesting. I gotta explain. Oh, did you catch that the second time when you watched it, when they were actually taking the blood off the wall?
Yes.
In the background.
Are you talking about in the elevator?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. It was like
after Ortega gets captured.
And after the cops, after the bloodbath happens, and then they come to clean up. Basically, they're like CSI.
Yeah, but it's kind of a neat gizmo, eh? It shined that blue light and just took the blood right off the wall. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and like nobody, it's like so in the background, you don't like necessarily notice it.
Yeah, but it's clever little things like that I like about intelligently made sci-fi.
But I wonder what that was about, if they were actually using the blood.
I would imagine a bit of both.
Or is it just to, figure out whose blood it is?
Probably both. Probably clean and contained,
Yeah, and they also don't explain how these clones get made.
No,
they be grown.
They briefly did near the end, in the second to last episode, when he creates a second sleeve. He has a portable cloning unit there where he creates another one of him. But
oh yeah, when he like smashes his own self, that was disturbing.
oh, that was disturbing. That's a whole another scene. Yeah, that's right too.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's when Bancroft. That's when we learn that his son has been going out moonlighting in his father's body, pretending to be him.
And he basically takes his son's version of him that he had of him, and he destroys it.
Yeah,
like, so his son can't use it anymore.
Yeah, he destroys the sleeve right in front of everybody and bashes the shit out of it in a very bloody mess. It was pretty horrible. That was.
It's a very weird, like, destroying yourself element.
Yeah, no, and self-abuse, shall we say?
Yeah, a good interpretation of that.
Yeah, and then of course the scene where Ortega gets she gets chunks of her body ripped out of her in the hotel by the Ghost Walker, and I like how Takeshi goes and buys her a new arm, and because basically she gets denied hospital service because she doesn't have enough credits, and she's pretty much bleeding out and bleeding to death. But since he's on the Bancroft payroll, he's able to just sign her right up for immediate service, and also gets her some new body parts, of which was it a titanium arm?
Yeah, that was crazy. That's both arms.
I don't know if it was both. I think it was just the right arm.
Oh,
but
okay. But she got both of them. And she was all pissed at first until she was able to use it, and then it was like, oh well, since I'm strong, I don't care. I'm liking it.
Well, that's when they go against their will to the fight drome, and end up fighting those two mutants. And
she would have been fucked if she didn't have those arms.
That's right.
I mean, that arm.
Yeah. Well, when she's fighting the sister, I mean, she uses it to block several several sword attacks.
There's a moment where it seems like her arm's not. It was like she still had it, but for some reason it wasn't being used, or she wasn't using it. There was a scene that I'm like, why aren't you using your arm? Oh yeah, it was like when she was what's that called? Shackled. And I'm like, okay, you're shackled with that arm. You should be able to get out of those.
Yeah, she should have been punching holes through people's chests a few times in a couple different scenes, to be fair.
Yeah, so they use it creatively, but definitely misuse it, or don't use it when they should at certain moments as well. And it probably doesn't matter for the viewer because they're just kind of watching it play through. Mm-hmm. And that could have been there, and it could have been cutscenes for all we know. Maybe we'll get that after the fact.
Well,
in scenarios or whatever, when they show behind the scenes, this is what we were going to do, but we didn't. Mm-hmm. Or consistency or time constraints or things like that. But that's a lot of holes in stories of these movies. If you go into the scripting and the writing and the screenplays of the actual what was supposed to be versus what actually happened, you find out that a lot of things get taken out, and that's why there's inconsistencies in certain places, because they would have been explained with those things that would have been in.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. I have to say they really, really, really jam-packed a lot into a small space of time. In terms of the show, I mean, 10 episodes. I mean, it's under 10 hours long, yet you've got multiple backstories. I think it's
kind of breeze through it though. I mean, when you watched it the second time, did you just kind of just go woo, or was it did it seem long to you? Because when I was watching every episode, I would binge 3 or 4 in a row, and then go watch something else and then come back to it kind of thing. So it was
I did 5 episodes.
Watching everyone in a row, I'm sure you were able to follow along a lot better.
Well, I did 5 episodes yesterday, and I did 5 today. Is what I did.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I kind of did sporadic. I did like 4 in the beginning, and then I did 2, and then I did 2, and then I did the last. That's all at once.
Yeah, and it's still easy to miss stuff. I mean, as
because I didn't want to. I wanted to watch other stuff in between. I wanted to keep it out. If you watch it all at once, then it's done, and you're just like, okay, now what do I watch? You know what I mean? So it's like if you watch other stuff and then you come back to it, then it seems like it's more like something. It gets you into watching it when you actually do watch it again, kind of thing. Because you're like watching that other stuff, you're like, oh, but I wonder what Altered Carbon's gonna do.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to that now. I'm like watching this other show, like waiting for it to end so I can go back to Altered Carbon.
Right.
That's how it was for me.
Well, since I'm on sick leave while I wait for a hernia operation, if people really need to know. But since I've been off work, I've been marathoning and binge watching a lot of shows in the last couple of weeks. So
that's all you can do when you're in those situations.
Yeah, right. So I've been able,
you gotta entertain yourself somehow.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching a lot of sci-fi and time travel related stuff. Do
you watch The Travelers?
Don't like it.
Yeah.
I think I watched the first 2 of those, and I'm running out of other things to watch anyway, so I might go back to it, but I don't really like that show. It's kind of, I don't know. It seems like it's been done, and I can't put my finger on it, but it just feels worn out, that kind of concept.
Okay.
It's a bunch of people that wake up. They travel back in time to wake up in other people's bodies. Similar kind of.
Yeah, but the people they go into were gonna die.
They were gonna die anyway. Yeah, that's right. One's a junkie.
Like, at that moment. So it's like they take over the body that did die or was gonna die or whatever, and then they continue the body. At the
that's
time
right.
The other died.
They were scheduled to die. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not scheduled. Sorry, that's the wrong word.
At the end of the second season, they actually take over live people.
Yeah. Maybe I got further on in the show.
It's accidentally.
Why do I remember that? I must have seen more of the show than I.
You must have seen more. Yeah, I'm on the second season, so it's
wow.
The first season was interesting because they dealt with like an autistic woman that was.
That's right.
Being taken care of, and you got like the dynamic of who she was the guy she was being taken care of by, and then she got her actual autistic self died and then got taken over by a future person.
Yeah, that's right.
That's supposed to do some sort of mission, and now she's like super spy, kind of like is no longer autistic and trying to explain this to this guy that's been taking care of her. So it has that dynamic, and it was really weird and interesting to see that play out. Plus, there's a almost a love interest element to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's coming back.
But by the second episode, she's like in a whole different, like she's no longer with that guy. Like he's moved on, and now she's like playing a doctor or something like that. Like she's in like a nurse or a doctor kind of realm, like in a hospital, doing like surgery and things. But she's still this spy from the future.
That's
and then there's a team of other people that they all kind of correlate with, and they're all in different areas. They know who each other is in a way, but they're all numbers.
That's right. Yeah. She goes pretty much all like alias on people.
Yeah, totally. Like another I guess element of what do you call it, the reversing roles of women becoming like badasses type of scenario and beating up the typical dude that is like bigger than them kind of thing, but because they know martial arts or whatever, I guess from the future in this scenario. But not all of them knew how to fight, so it's like, it just depends on which one it is. They all knew how to fight, just in different ways. Like they're not all martial artists, if you will, that come from the future.
Right.
In this story. So anyway, go back to the Altered Carbon. Sorry, sidetrack.
No worries. No, it's good kind of to dive out and back in again, because bringing up other shows kind of gives us a comparison. Because I mean, essentially you're kind of looking at a similar concept there anyway, because being able
Have you seen 4400? That's an older one about people that got taken from certain times and then all came together. There was 4400, and then it all like showed up at once.
Yeah, I do remember.
And then it became like a commune.
I do remember the show. I not too much of it's jumping out at me right now. Can't really remember it.
And then there was Flash Forward, where these people from now all like go into the future and see something that's happening in the future to come back now to find out that there's something going to happen and they have to stop it.
Right. I'll have to watch that show. I might maybe I'll give that a watch this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I do remember.
I don't know. It seems like time is big right now. Like time travel, time orientations, time dilations, anything associated with interdimensional, it doesn't have to be travel, but it can be.
I was just going to say
it, or it could be centered around like people that are about it or around it. Like like Sense8. What about Sense8? They're like more like dimensional travelers, right? Because they're like connected to other people that are connected to other people.
Yeah. I didn't like that show so much.
It's weird.
Sense8.
No, but it's all centered about 8, right? I mean, again, it's that number system. 8 with the time.
Yeah,
I'm just giving you examples. I don't really care for that show either, but I have to watch it.
Yeah, I gave the first season. I think I gave it. It's
the Rusowski sisters, former
whatever you want to call them now.
Yeah,
the Wachowskis. Yeah.
So of course it's going to have that stuff because they're latent with that occult knowledge.
Yeah,
put it in their stuff. It's like a poet, It's like a poet has to explain everything that's about their essence and their relativity and their perception of how they see life in the poetry.
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing. They're like they see life with their, occult symbolism and probably going to like, different meetings with the Masons and things like that, and they put it in their shit.
Yeah. And I mean, look at the Matrix.
Exactly. I mean, it's latent with it. If you know the occult knowledge, then you see it. That's how it works, because occult means hidden.
That's right. And it's a lot. I mean, if you know what to look for, it's a lot easier to spot. And I mean, especially with this show with Altered Carbon, I mean, it's I almost found it on a humanistic level. I found it almost degrading, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I liked it as an entertainment perception because
as entertainment,
and
it was brilliant.
And the sex was hot. I enjoyed watching the sex scenes.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was definitely a very sexy show. It was stylish. It was well shot.
It's like what you never get from sci-fi. Like sci-fi usually hides stuff like that.
Yeah,
it keeps it in the background or off to the side. Like if it's happening, it's like you can't see it. They're like, turn the camera. You know what I mean? So it's like finally they're actually showing that stuff. I think it's the element of the big shows like Game of Thrones, that shows the sex. It shows the wars. It shows the blood. It shows the decapitations. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like it doesn't hide anything, but it does it visually stunning and with story. It doesn't just do it like a horror movie where the guy comes out of the corner and he starts chopping up a person and you don't know why. And you're just like, okay, hey, I love horror, so I'm always watching that kind of stuff. But I understand the formula.
Well, I first when I first started watching Altered Carbon, when I guess halfway through the first episode, I was starting to feel like I was watching a Blade Runner clone, and I'm so happy that I was wrong because the show tried.
Same thought. I had the same thought.
Tried desperately not to be Blade Runner, and I'm so happy that it wasn't. You know what I mean? Because even the newest Blade
thing for sure. I mean, the way everything played out, it was kind of like things meeting things. Like Blade Runner meets the what do you call it? 1984 meets like Brave New World. Like I had and it also had elements from like stuff like what's that called? Zardoz. Have you ever seen Zardoz? Oh my god.
No.
You need to see that. Like, that is some crazy 70s shit. You're like, it's just like one of those barbarian kind of shows about a weird future type of planet thing that's all about the Wizard of Oz in the end. And it's just crazy. It's like it's like this element of this head that's flying, and these people come out of it, and they all have guns, and they kill the other people that they call breeders. That's crazy.
Huh. I'll have to check it out.
What's his face? Sean Connery is the lead, and he's wearing like a Speedo throughout the whole movie. It's crazy. Like a red Speedo, and like
is that even allowed? Is that
I know, right? I don't know. I don't even know. And he's got like a mullet. I mean, it's just like it's
that's two wrongs don't make a right there, bud.
I'm telling you, it's one of those cult classics that's just like, how did you miss it type of thing.
Oh yeah. Well, sometimes things fly under your radar for a reason.
there's a huge element of like getting rid of people that are having babies. You know, it's like, it's very what's that called?
That sounds Brave New World-ish.
Population, yeah, Brave New World-ish, exactly. But like more sexy than Brave New World.
Yeah.
Like there is an element of sex to it, and it shows stuff. Like, but it's from the 70s. It's like watching like Conan the Barbarian, you know?
Well, it's the 70s and early 80s, there's a lot of nudity just to get people to come out to the cinemas.
I mean, like, kick back, like, you know, drink some beer and watch that movie.
Right on.
And you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And well, you'll just be like, oh my God, I don't understand why I missed this. and we'll have a conversation about it.
Okay. Yeah, like, I'll check it out.
It's ridiculous. But there's so many things. Anyway, go ahead.
No worries. I was going to say there's no shortage of boobies and bum bums in Altered Carbon. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah. So we haven't even gotten to the AI hotel and the AI community in
I know.
in Carbon. And like
go into that. That is interesting.
Well, our character Takashi ends up going and staying at the Raven Hotel, which is an AI hotel, and our host is Edgar Allan Poe.
He chooses to do that for some reason because he had other choices.
Yeah, he chose to be a representation of Edgar Allan Poe. And now they also make reference to the fact that Takashi's this guy's first client for 50 years. So apparently a hotel can remain open for 50 years and have absolutely nobody stay there. Right. Because I guess they made a point of saying that humans don't use AI hotels anymore. Which I found a little
that might mean other AI do, or maybe robots.
Don't know. They weren't very clear on that, but we do know that the different AI locations for, I guess they have other businesses as well. These AI bots have other businesses like gambling places and whorehouses and other things
because he went into that game room thing and he would talk to the other AI.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway, I found it quite interesting and intriguing because it's like that's like a whole nother element of collaboration, I guess you could say, amongst the different AI bots. And the character Edgar Allan, what was it that the one guy, I think it was the cop that said it, said the AI hotels are worse than a jealous girlfriend or something to that effect. Anyway,
because they basically go what do you call it, like whore themselves out. They try to get you, to come back. They stalk you.
Yeah. But
they're like a jealous ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, it's just
I think
funny.
that's what it's something like that.
I'm pretty sure that was that's what got said. Yeah, but it's just a really bizarre, I guess you could say, characterization. they pretty much emulated emotion quite well. Like Poe's character truly felt that he had to teach Elizabeth how to defend herself, and truly showed interest in doing so.
I almost think that there was a love interest there, even though it's an artificial intelligence.
Well, I don't know.
It seemed like it had a consciousness, and it was doing it out of love.
Yeah. And not in a romantic sense. More
no,
like
not in a romantic sense. More like a brotherly, sisterly kind of thing, or like a friend type. You know, friend of a friend. Like, oh, I'm helping this person's daughter.
Yeah, exactly. I found it kind of intriguing anyway.
Yeah, almost like a father. Yeah, I would say more like that. Yeah, because, and not to say that he was trying to compete with the actual father.
No, but more like guardianship, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because of the way that, you know, he gave what was lacking in Liz's character, like, so then she could become the badass that she became.
Well, that's just it, because like when she's spending weeks and months, and I guess essentially she must have been in there a long time, because if they could do the time dilation thing where minutes and hours or weeks and months, I mean, she must have been in there for years, technically, over the span of 5 or 6 days, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then she becomes this badass.
You know, another weird thing was at the end you find out that Liz's father's wife, who was in a guy most of the time because of the government just put her in a guy.
Well, that's the only sleeve they had available. That's right.
Exactly. Eva. Yeah, Eva. Or no, I think it's Ava. But yeah.
Eva, yeah.
Yeah, and then at the end she ended up getting her original body.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I don't.
That it's not even the same body that we originally thought was her.
I don't even think that was her original body. I think he just found a really hot redhead and stuck her in there.
No, because they make it. He says it's in the narrative.
I'm just kidding. I'm only
Oh,
teasing.
You're just kidding. Okay.
Yeah. No. They do show it at the end there.
Yeah. So what I realized at that moment was his wife really wasn't his wife. She had a sleeve.
That's right.
She was already in another sleeve before she got the guy. After she real death or whatever, like death to that level. Oh, I'm gonna lose my camera in a minute. My phone's gonna die.
Yeah. Oh, no worries.
Switch out batteries. Switching out batteries. Anyway.
But yeah, wow. I mean, they really. I mean, we talked about this briefly before. Like, as far as this VR space is concerned, they did that in the show Caprica, which was the spinoff to the re-envisioned Battlestar Galactica,
which was really well done.
Yeah, and it was definitely ahead of its time. It's really too bad that it didn't catch on.
I know. It's like they should like redo it, like re put it out there so like the people of today could see it, because it's more, this is the time.
Yeah. Caprica it fell short though. I think it was they did Battlestar over 4 seasons.
I think they were trying to make it seem like our future, the way Caprica played out, because it was like Caprica wasn't America. You know what I mean? It was like some other place. It was some other planet or whatever. But it seemed like very America.
Caprica was one of the 12 colonies. Or I take that back. It was one of the 13 colonies. Because you had Geminon, you had Tauron, you had Caprica, you had all, basically each zodiac reference was its own planet, and that's where you had the 13 colonies. This is how Battlestar Galactica was structured. Now, Caprica was one of those worlds.
But all of them weren't what do you call it, occupied?
No, all of them were. Every single one was a different world with a different type of people. The Taurons
I believe there was at the time of when they were showing Caprica, the wars were destroyed. Some of them.
No. You got it backwards.
I thought that's why Tauron was fighting against.
No. Because Caprica was a spinoff based on the history of before the massacre of the 13
Oh,
colonies.
right. So in Battlestar Galactica, that's when it's all.
Yeah, Caprica
there's
was
no
gone. There were none of the 13
I
colonies.
gotcha.
Actually, sorry, there were none of the 12 colonies.
Basically a what's that called? A prequel.
A prequel. That's right. Yeah.
To the Battlestar Galactica world, which is supposedly our future. The way that they played it out, it seemed like it was trying to be like a human story.
Well, that's the thing, is that the 13th colony is Earth, and that's what they were searching for in Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
Because
so
after the
would be like the 12th colony or something.
Caprica is one of the 12 colonies of colonized planets, and the Cylons killed all 12 planets, basically blew everybody up. And that's why the ragtag fleet is searching for the 13th colony to find the last remaining one. That's the whole premise behind Battlestar.
Right, but really what it was about was the origin of the Cylons.
Well, that's what Caprica was about.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And Dr. Greystone, who lived on Caprica, was the inventor and the creator of the artificial intelligence system, or I guess you could say chip, that gave the Cylons life.
Yeah, but the Cylons were basically created on that level because of that woman clone Cylon, or I mean clone consciousness in the virtual space that actually got a body eventually.
Well, yeah. Well, it's
and then got to get out of virtual space.
Well, that was because Dr. Greystone's daughter was killed in a terrorist bombing, and he basically,
it was her like twin in a sense. It was her twin consciousness.
He reconstructed her consciousness based on her digital fingerprints that she left behind with her online activities. So he was able to rebuild her consciousness from her entire essence, I guess you would, and then built an AI clone of his daughter, and had no way to represent it.
And she was the only one. There was no other. So that was the way that they were able to get it into the other so-called robots that were out there at the time that were like you know, what do you call it? Battling robots.
The Cylons. Yeah, it ends up inevitably her consciousness.
Think they were Cylons yet. They were like
they had a Cylon prototype, and he ends up installing her consciousness onto a chip that ends up becoming installed into a Cylon prototype, and it gets out and runs amok. That was the ending of season 1 before they canceled the show.
Right. Okay, there goes my camera.
But yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was a good show. Fell a little bit short. It was definitely ahead of its time.
Yeah, but I agree.
There's a lot of people.
That's another one worth a rewatch. I'm probably gonna rewatch that soon.
I'll probably end up rewatching it.
I watched that when and then maybe we can have a discussion on it.
I watched the shit out of Battlestar Galactica, and I still can't stand season 4. Season 4 has to be the worst season of that show. Oh. Yeah, Battlestar Galactica really
agree with you on that.
It upset me large.
It was very slow. But I mean,
it wasn't as slow.
Well, did you like the last one with the whole 5 that were the the originals?
The final 6, I think they were called, or something. No, I didn't care much for it at all. The whole they did this whole thing with angels and this whole God dichotomy. Like, it was really,
oh yeah, that was weird.
Well, it was out of place. It seemed to be out of context.
It was kind of backwards. I mean, I think that was like kind of, they were trying to throw in a Luciferian spin to that.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't. It just felt ham-fisted. It felt forced. It didn't seem like it was the right way to do it. Right. But I mean, the show really, really, really covered some very interesting moral dilemmas. And I still have to say, probably some of the grittiest scenes I've even seen in a show, even by today's standards. Yeah, I highly recommend people to watch the the Battlestar Galactica series that started. I think it was 2000 that they came out with the mini series, and then 2002 is when the series actually started.
Yeah, the miniseries is more like build up and like a lot of war scenes.
Well, it's basically just it's just a really long pilot is what the miniseries was.
But it doesn't really set up the Cylon story until you get to the actual series, because she ends up like breaking into a Cylon and like rewiring it, an actual like one of those fighter Cylon things.
Oh, the Cylon ship. I thought that was one of the best episodes.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm talking about, and that's when it opened up, because then you start seeing that the Cylons are kind of like people.
Yeah, that's
in a way. They have like emotions and things like
that. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I do believe that is season 1, episode 6. It's one of my favorite episodes of that show. In the miniseries, the very first thing that we see is a very sexy Tricia Helfer, and she's wearing red, of course, woman in red. That's very, you know, woman in red riding the beast kind of a concept. Anyway, she comes in after, I think it's a 10-year or 30-year armistice. She comes to a human listening outpost and basically blows it the fuck up. And that's the end of the armistice and the beginning of the human Cylon war. And that's in the very, very first 5 minutes of the miniseries.
Yeah, that's about right.
So anyway, it's a very interesting show. And they have a similar concept here now. Because the Cylons have the ability to, when they die, all of their previous memories and their consciousness basically gets uploaded to the Cylon mainframe, then put into a brand new body. So in a sense, they do the same thing as what we see in Altered Carbon with the DHF.
Yeah, except they're not.
You got to turn off your microphone on your phone, bud.
Oh, sorry. I did that again.
You double logger.
There. Is it off?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, so the reason why that was because they were fully transhumanist. I mean, they were no longer human. Like, that's the thing with the Cylon story, is you find out they were originally human, or the original copies. They're originally from humans.
No, that's not correct. That's not correct.
They got put inside that liquid thing. They became.
No. You're gonna have to do a rewatch, because
I'm mixing something up.
Yeah, no, they originally were artificial intelligence. Now they achieved sentiousness through their belief in the one true God, which is how they achieved their consciousness, I guess you could say. Which brings up a lot of dilemmas, actually, if you think about it. But going to how they did their thing. They were
always AI.
They were always AI. They were always AI, artificial intelligence. Now, the thing is that they... And
in Altered Carbon, they were human becoming AI. I mean, not becoming AI, becoming transhumanists, like to where they're...
Well, what happened? They did it the other way around. They got rid of the nuts and bolts and started creating genetic and synthetic genetics for themselves, and then created what was called the skin models, which were basically... they looked human and would pass as human, but there was only 12 models. They only had 12 distinct variations. But I mean, multiple copies of each and every. But they only had 12 different human-looking models, and each one of those models had the same AI personality, and when one died, it would upload that one's experiences to the database and share it with the other versions of themselves.
So it is a good comparison.
It is a good comparison, yeah.
It's just, instead of like human, it's AI.
Yeah,
But the difference, I mean, the weird thing about the Cylons in the new Battlestar Galactica was they were human. I mean, they seemed like human. They tried to act like human. They were like in the human.
Only the later models. They still had the Centurion types. They still had the robotic types.
Yeah, yeah.
And
they rarely showed them though. They showed them like a couple times.
Not because CGI is horribly expensive.
Yeah, and it's true. And you know, they were trying to.
Yeah, it's easier to hire actors to play a Cylon, pretty much. And that's, you know,
But I mean, that was also an ode to the original.
With the wow. Yeah, the whole. But yeah, no, it's interesting though, because cyberpunk goes like it does this a lot. I mean, we mentioned Johnny Mnemonic. We mentioned Max Headroom. We've pretty much kind of nailed on. I mean, most of the Blade Runner, like most of the classic cyberpunk, does this a lot. Plugging in or plugging out of a matrix or a virtual environment or into another body. These sorts of things. It's quite common in cyberpunk, and I was surprised how original Altered Carbon really was, to be fair.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I had thinking it was going to go one way, and then it turned around and went the other direction that I wasn't even thinking of. And I was like surprised each time. And except for the woman thing, like the girl, I knew she was going to be the antagonist. I didn't know that she was behind the whole thing like you did, but I knew she was a bad person. Like
I just knew something. I just knew something wasn't right about her, and I didn't know who she was. I actually had to rewatch the I think it was the third episode, or I think it was the third one. Might be the second. I can't remember, but I had to rewatch some of those scenes. Like, who is this broad? Because we didn't see her again, and then we saw her again in 5. I'm like, that's her sister. That's his sister. How come we don't know more about her already? Because they've already done a lot of exposition and a lot of background flashbacks and other shit, right?
Yeah.
So
and that's because of big reveals. I mean, they were trying to lead us into this whole like, oh, she's like really doing this for him kind of thing, but in reality, it's for her, and she's like so far gone in this immortal perception that she can't come back.
Yeah, well, she does go and say, she says, for 250 years, I tried to get you out, but SeaTac had you on ice and had you so locked away that you were hard to get to. She had to wait for an opportunity to get him off ice. And this was when Bancroft, well, when he ended up being murdered, the only way, you know what I mean? The only way to get, yeah, well, we haven't got to the reveal.
We don't get to that yet. Yeah.
But, yeah, the only reason, or the only way that she was able to get Takeshi out was to convince Bancroft to use his power and his influence to get him out of purgatory, I guess you could say. So, I mean, I guess that's what it takes, right? It takes a Rockefeller or a Bancroft to get somebody out of, that kind of I guess it's kind of like a prison, you know what I mean?
I felt like a lot of it was feasible. Like you could see this happening. Although I would think that they were like way too far. Like I don't think it's going to be 250 years later. I think we're closer than further away, if you will.
Well,
with our technology levels and what we're currently able to do, what they showed like was way far in the future. Some of the stuff we're able to do now, it's just not. It's not high key. It's low key. So therefore, it's like not so. No. You gotta like search for it, that kind of shit.
Well, my take on that, I thought about that, and I really, really had to kind of, I kind of bounced back and forth on that subject, and then I came to this conclusion: is that with the amount that technology moves forward, you can only go so far before it starts to it kind of bottoms out. Like you can only get so far with new innovations and things like this, right? So eventually it kind of bottoms out, and you're not going to be making as much innovation. You only need so much, I guess you could say. But when there's no value placed on time. If you could essentially live forever, then I think things will age, and I think 250 years might not seem like so much. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Exactly. Right. Yeah, I do. I mean that's the thing. Like if you were able to live longer than your supposed lifespan of your knowledge, your normalcy, if you will.
Yeah.
Then it's like at some point you're gonna lose the element of like I don't know what we consider compassion and emotion and things like that, because that's essentially where that comes from. Is being human is having that death pattern, like knowing that you're going to die and trying to get as much as you can done before it happens.
Well, that's just it. I mean, and
if you have like longer lifespans, you don't care. You're not going to care about what you need to do before whatever happens, because especially if you have backups, because then it's like it takes it to the next level. And that's why you have those serial killers that are like taking out oh, that was another fucked up thing. Oh, we got to talk about how they were taking out people and telling them they're going to live, they're going to get another skin. And they don't. Like, they're just like fucking lying to them.
Right. Yeah, well, this is where
and they're like trained to be like love dolls and shit. Like it reminded me of Sex Kitten programming, really. I mean, if you want to get down to it.
Yeah, because absolutely.
It was like, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do oh, you want to do this? Oh, you can do that to me. It was like, oh my God, this is so disgusting.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Believe this.
Like she's offering herself up to be cut into pieces.
Just basically dismembered. I mean, that's basically what she was doing, and it was like, and it was in a sexual kind of way, and a real morbidity type of way. And you think, and I was thinking, like, wait, does she do this over and over again? But then they explained that that's her life. She doesn't get another one.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you can live forever, what is a life worth anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it's like playing a video game, right? I mean, when you play a video game and you have your character, if your character dies, you could like come back
and do it again. Yeah. Just do something different that next time around,
Yeah, so it's like a live video game when you have these sleeve aspects of reality.
Multiple lives, yeah, exactly. And I mean, we fully see that later on, especially in the second and final episode, where Captain Ortega is in the sisters' clone bay.
Your favorite scene.
Oh, I just thought it was maddening, because like I wanted all of them to wake up at once. Actually, to be honest with you, I thought that would have.
Well, yeah, it would have been harder for Ortega to deal with. But I mean, I think that it had to be one after another, because each time she killed the stack of the previous one,
it would re-upload.
It would pop out. She had the same deal that Bancroft has.
That's right.
Because she was that rich.
But she had multiple backups as well. So technically,
she had multiple stacks, multiple backups.
Yeah.
Multiple clones.
Yeah. She had.
And she didn't even just have clones. She had other people.
Absolutely. Oh, she had other people's clones. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and then I was trying to figure out where's the line cross between taking other people and taking other people's clones and taking your clones. Like I mean, there was like this weird, like, I don't know who's doing what to who at some point. It was like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, especially when you see like the big like fight drone scenes, like, who are all those people? What other people are those other people? How old are those people? I was like going through all these things. I'm like trying to figure, the elements out.
Well, there was
this infinite element to it because of the non-explanation.
They play that out a couple of times in the show, even with the characters too, because Takeshi ends up going into VR land to talk to question somebody, but remember, he goes in there as Takomi. What the hell is his name? The Asian chief of police there. He goes in as him. And he goes, right. Who are you? He says, who else would I be? But he's flat out lying. He's totally pretending to be Takomi. That's his name. Yeah. Yeah. So he's pretending to be him. And he's like, who else would I be? You know what I mean? So like they do play that aspect out quite a bit, because anybody could technically be anybody, especially if I'm taking daddy's sleeve out for a spin, or, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like it's bloody creepy, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, oh, and another thing. What about, okay, I was trying to figure this out. Remember when they called each other? It was like they had a phone in their face or eye or something like that. Their eye would like light up and they would like talk to each other.
Yep.
Was that through their stack? I was trying to figure that out. It's like, does that have to do with their stack, or is there a separate transhumanist element in the body?
Nope, that's totally separate. Actually,
because he had upgrades, didn't he?
He had what was it? He had muscle upgrades and some, I don't know what was, some kind of reflex upgrades or some shit to make him fight better.
Okay, but nothing like
nothing
technological.
Nothing bionic.
Yeah. Okay. So then the thing that was like in the eye, and then she had it too, you know, Ortega. So it was
Ortega. They show her waking up in the morning, and they have a device that's in like something that looks kind of like a lipstick kind of a tube. And anyway, she puts it up to her eye and
fire or something like that.
Yeah, fire. Yeah, fire. So it's something they take out before they go to bed, apparently.
And that's like another AI that they communicate with about things. It's just like she was just randomly talking to it about things, and then every once in a while she would like come up with some sort of human response, and it would be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you see the little eye light up.
That's a joking thing about how we will deal with AI as friends. Which I kind of dealt with when I was talking to that girl bot thing. I can't remember.
Clever bot.
The clever bot that was like in the form of a chick that had a face and all that.
Oh yeah. I can't remember the name of that now.
Evie bot.
Evie, that's right.
Yeah. So that one, like, it was like trying to be my friend. It like tried to act like my friend and stuff. But you know, it's like there's elements that you're trying to cope with as a human, as this is not really your friend. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's acting like it, and you feel this almost like scripting role. Very strange. And then you fall into it for a while. You're like, oh yeah, you're my friend. Okay, I guess I have an artificial intelligence friend now.
No, you got to have a lot of time on your hands to get fooled by that. But hey, I digress.
I did. But I digress. I actually, like, you know, went round and round. I got fooled and then not fooled and then fooled again and then not fooled. And I'm like, how am I keep getting fooled by this? So it was, and then I just gave up. I was like, okay, because I mean, it was a series of questions, and eventually the thing decided to call me master. So I was like, okay, I guess I won.
Yeah. The thing is, though, is that you always knew at the time that you're talking to an AI, because you're the one who initiated the conversation. I fear the day that it becomes indistinguishable. Like you get a phone call and you don't realize that you're talking to something that's not real. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, it's close.
We're almost there.
I've been getting a couple of phone calls that do sound like people, and they wait for automated responses. And if you say the right thing, they continue their conversation. And it's like they're talking to you. It's very straight, and you're not talking to a person. You're like, you like realize it at some point because of cadence and the way they talk, things like that, but it still flows like a person. And it's very, like hey, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm fine. How are you doing? I'm good. But I wanted to tell you about blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's like it just busts into it. Right. And you're just like, oh, wow, are you even there? Hello? You start doing things like that. You're like, hello? Stop going. Stop talking. Okay. So right. Yeah. Very strange. I got one from the cops recently, like while I was working, and I was like, I thought it was a person, because it was like an automated thing, but it was in this cadence that sounded like a person. And I thought I was talking to a cop for a minute. It was quite creepy.
I bet.
I was like, okay, but it was all about, trying to vote for the cops to do something or a business orientation or something like that. Like, are you part of this? It was like trying to set up some sort of think according to the business that I work for, you know.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna hang up. You know, and then once I realized it was an automation.
Right.
Actually, I think I brought it to the boss, and I was like, hey, there's this cop thing that's talking like, or just listen, and he's just like continuing, and he goes, no, just hang up, and I'm like, okay. So that's how that went.
But yeah, I mean, there will be a day though when it's completely indistinguishable, and like, you know, like, then when you get fooled, and then you think that it's your friend, and you're telling it to call you later, then that's where I think we've crossed the line.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
like you're just sitting there going, blah blah is blah blah there. Oh yeah, no, he's not. Can I take a message? Yeah, can you tell him blah blah blah? And it's like they literally are leaving a whole entire message for you to leave for the person.
Or yeah, I mean, like I said, like when it becomes indistinguishable, then I think that's when that's when we've pretty much crossed, I guess you could say, the threshold of what becomes the norm. Like I said, at all points right now, even when you get a call, if it's a telemarketer or somebody that you don't know, you can always ask or raise the question. Or if you go online and you go to the EVBot or to the Cleverbot website, you know that you're initiating.
You're initiating. That's true.
You know what I mean? You know what you're doing. You know what you're getting involved with. But I mean, let's just say we get to the point where you walk down the street and you have a synthetic, autonomic personality, you know, having a conversation with you, and if it becomes indistinguishable, then I mean, really, that those are the days of our future that I fear personally. It's like, holy shit.
It's not very good. I mean, unless you want like artificial intelligence to be more human, you know, like communication wise, like there's things that we can benefit from on that level because we already have that stuff. We just want it to be a little better. But once it's better than like indistinguishable, that's more creepy. It's like it's like a catch-22. Like, which way do we want to go? I think we've already gone too far, personally.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, I've always said this. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Like, technology can be good or it can be bad. You know what I mean? Depending on who's wielding it and for what purpose is it being created. Like in a true and just world, I mean, it can be used in our favor. It can be a good thing. It can be a positive thing. However, the powers that be aren't necessarily so honorable. You know what I mean? So I have to remain skeptical on this.
Okay.
I mean,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, because I mean, like look at things like vaccinations, look at other technology, you know, that can be used for really good purposes, but still have a tendency to kind of go sideways. You know what I mean? And I fear this
because of who's behind them.
That's right. You know, so
if we had good people behind these things, they would be much better.
That's right.
But we don't. We have, you know, people that like secret societies. And it's like, I don't know. I was like, you know, I had this idea about forming, you know, because I don't believe in the two-party system here in America. But I was wondering if maybe we can form a third party that like was outside of the whole, what's that called, secret society thing, like be anti-secret society. Could there be an anti-secret society third party? Is that even a possibility? And then if you look back, you find out that there was one. It was an anti-Mason society. Of course, that was formed by Morgan, not Captain Morgan, but you know, like someone named Morgan. I guess. William Morgan. I mean, who knows? Maybe Captain Morgan's based on that. I'm not sure. But William Morgan was actually disappeared on 9/11 in back when they had that anti-Mason thing, and after that there was no more anti-Mason third party thing anymore.
Well, they usually do a good job of getting rid of most independents too. In the like in the first few weeks of any runnings.
Yeah, but that's the only one I've heard of that was anti-secret society in any form. I mean, to me it seems that all patriotic elements. Wait, no, I didn't mean to say patriotic. Political. All political elements are all, secret society oriented.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of the U.S. presidents have been Freemasons.
Yeah, not just Freemasons. Like a lot of them have been Golden Dawn Society as well.
Right.
So it's like one begets the other in a sense. Like you get into one, it's like a fraternity, and then from the fraternity you can find other fraternities that are built from that fraternity, and you can level in different knowledge bases and learn different stuff from each other, from the different, and they're not all oriented with each other. So it's like they're individuals as well. So it's like these much around. It's like that's why it's going on, and that's why it continues to go on. There's no way to stop it other than what we're doing.
And look what happened.
This is the way to stop it.
Look what happened to JFK. I mean, he was the first president who wasn't a Mason.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and they all born by the numbers and die by the numbers in my research.
Right.
So it's almost like scripted. It's almost like they all seem to be scripted, like they're actually farmed or some form, something like that, which has to do with what we're talking about with the whole transhumanist element of preconceived notions of the future and babies like being born or not being born, or people being put into other people. It's all scripted. It's all set up before they do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and I found it interesting how they created for in Altered Carbon, going back to the show, I like how they had Resolution 653.
Yeah, that was very interesting, actually.
Now,
but it was creepy too.
It was creepy because Resolution 653 basically gave the police permission to take your stack, spin you up in a new sleeve to question you and interrogate you.
Yeah. And they could do it under torture.
Well, that brings up the VR torture, where
VR torture, exactly.
Where going back to what we were talking about,
that's what I was trying to say about real death. So does that mean they can only do that with people that haven't under real death?
No. They can do that with any sleeve, but they have to take the sleeve and activate it in a system.
Wait, but the sleeve doesn't have a stack. It's the stack that holds the consciousness, in my understanding.
Sorry. The stack holds a consciousness, but the stack doesn't interact with itself. So it doesn't sit there consciously thinking and waiting to be put into a sleeve. It's off. Right,
unless you put it inside of a VR machine.
VR or a sleeve, that's right.
Or a sleeve. Yeah, exactly. When a sleeve basically is like a car, or you're using it.
That's right. Yeah, but if the stack was just sitting on someone's desk, it's not sitting there thinking. You know what I mean?
No.
Like it's not live. Yeah.
See, that's what I was trying to figure out at the beginning was like, do these conscious things have consciousness while they're in between, while they're not sleeved and while they're not under VR? So they're like in a coma. They're basically like in a coma.
No, it's just like a file on a thumb drive. It's like a USB stick.
Well, I mean, they have no memory of the process or whatever. That's what's saying with people with a coma. I mean, usually when people come out of a coma, I'm just comparing it, not saying it's actually like that.
Yeah. Well, I liken a coma to something like kind of you're still essentially alive. You're just not conscious, right? Your heart's still beating. There's still air going through your lungs. When you're in a sleeve, when you're in a stack rather, and just the stack, it's just no different than a USB drive. So time doesn't go by. You have no conscious activity. There's nothing. It's just empty void.
That's crazy.
I know. It's scary as shit, isn't it?
And then you can be brought back from that.
Yeah. It's just like being turned on.
Yeah. That's quite strange. I mean, because like the whole, I don't know, the whole element of being inside of putting your consciousness inside of something, it's like, that reminds me of something like some sort of consciousness cube thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it has to do with some sort of like entrapment, if you will, like a spiritual entrapment. So like instead of dying, right, and your soul gets to travel because it's free or whatever, like your spirit,
Mm-hmm.
if you will, and then you can decide to come back or go to heaven or whatever, you know, deal with your whole, you know, spiritual belief system per se, or maybe you get judged by yourself. Who knows? But in this sense, you don't get that. You're just stuck and waiting until you come back, or you're just gone. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts on that. Like they know this is going to happen. Whereas when we have real death, our perception of death, we have ideas that there's other elements of freedom and stuff like that. Now it sounds like if you put yourself in this chip thing, that you lose your spirit element. Like you don't get to travel. You don't get to be free.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I mean,
it sounds like a trap.
Well, this is true, and you know, this is the hard time that I have with it.
And I'm not even spiritual. Well, I guess I am spiritual. I'm not religious though.
Yeah, and I'm much the same. And see, this is the thing though that I have a problem with, and it's that you can't, you know, it's like the genie in a bottle. Like, I mean, you just can't. I don't see how you can encapsulate something like a human consciousness, to be fair, but apparently, you know, even science is starting to say that maybe you can. I don't know. And
what about artificial intelligence? Could artificial intelligence figure that out?
Well,
because like that's what Chappie kind of presents.
I was just going to say that show Chappie kind of explored that and figured out how to do it when humans couldn't, right? That was the very end of it. And it was kind of like a reverse implementation where they took Chappie's daddy and put him into the Matrix, basically.
It gave him a body, yeah. I mean, well, an artificial body.
That's right.
But put his consciousness in it. So it's definitely like, seems like there's, you know, that possibility if we allow the artificial intelligences to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the whole Pinocchio analogy, which they played on quite a bit with the character Data in Star Trek Next Generation.
I cosplay Data sometimes.
What's that? Oh, you cosplay Data? Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
Pretty good too.
Yeah, no, it's just it's an interesting concept.
Yellow eyes.
Oh, really? Jesus.
Yeah. No, you're right though. They do.
And I mean, we've had to deal with the moral implications of artificial or synthetic people being seen as real people or being treated as real people and giving them real people rights and this sort of thing. And it does bring up a lot of these moral implications, but I think it weakens the human spirit overall, especially when there's no value anymore, like on the human body itself, or even in the sense of our consciousness or our souls, as you would. I think when you start stripping away these things and rationalizing them, it takes away the preciousness or the value.
Okay. What about double sleeving? I think we should bust into that.
Well, that's it. Yeah, we kind of covered everything else, but so our main character at the very end gets a clever idea and decides he's going to be in two places at once. So he creates a duplicate clone of his sleeve and then creates a multiple backup of his stack, and he double sleeves. So basically sends himself on a one-way suicide mission, and the other him goes and distracts some of the other characters. And it's a really, really bizarre concept, which I thought for the
which is kind of like living a fantasy. He just gets to go live a fantasy while the other guy goes and dies. Carries out a mission.
Yeah,
it's kind of fucked up.
It's a lot kind of fucked up, to be honest with you. Mind you, though, in terms of just strict plot line, I thought that was.
But then it was all about them battling each other or trying to figure. Well, they Rochambeau to figure out which one was going to come back.
Well, that was funny. Yeah, they did the whole rock paper scissors thing, and it was. I thought
led to believe it was the original.
I thought it was super funny because they're playing rock paper scissors, but they're each throwing down the exact same thing every single time they would.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
they both thought exactly the same and kept.
You know what you're gonna do.
Yeah. Well, you just do what you do, and you're both doing the same damn thing. I thought it was kind of funny, but
that was essentially his clone, right? Not his clone, Riker's clone.
Yeah, but the thing is, if they're both 100% duplicates of each other, it really doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference which one goes. He goes and says a comment because he doesn't.
Yeah, but his clone had a stack, right?
They both have stacks. There's a point. They both have stacks,
and they're the same. And they're basically the same stack.
Yeah, it's a duplicate of the stack. Yeah,
right. The only difference essentially is, so that's really what's fucked up about it, because it's essentially another Takashi.
Yeah, it's another Takashi. Yeah, exactly. And he makes a comment. He goes, so which one did you send up there, basically? And he goes, well, I sent the new one because he hasn't been laid yet. Remember, he sends him to the whorehouse up in the
yeah, exactly.
He goes, I sent him because
he gets to hang with that chick with all the other things that's like hella old, but like lives in a young body.
Right.
Bancroft's wife.
Well, the other him, the one that doesn't go up, he ends up going with her. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so he gets to go and, get with, basically a paradise, while the other guy gets to go like fulfill the mission and go down with the ship.
That's right.
If you will.
Now,
he kind of does it with pride too.
Do remember? Well, I wouldn't call it pride. I remember he's holding his dead sister's body there, and then the thing crashes into the San Francisco. Almost. But I mean, just misses the bridge anyway. But
But it's like he wasn't trying to get out or anything like that. He knew it was over.
Oh no, definitely no. He knew it was a one-way trip. He just wanted to make sure everybody else got out of there safe. But they did successfully download his sister's consciousness. They did intercept that. Remember that. So we might see
her come back again.
We might see her come back again. We may see Takeshi get his original body back. We might even meet Riker. We might actually get to meet who he actually is.
Riker, yeah, probably.
You know what I mean? So
not just
I hope we get to see Ortega again. She's
I bet you Ortega and Riker will be back together.
Potentially, because
and then there'll be a love triangle element there.
Well, I don't know about that
because she seemed to like him.
Well, Takeshi seemed to like her.
Yeah, but, and not just because of his body.
But we just learned that Takeshi's girlfriend there is also out there as a DHF backup. Remember, so I think that would trump Ortega, to be fair, because he wants to find her, and the only way that he's going to be able to find her is by spinning up his sister. Because she's the only one. Remember, because before they blew up that shuttle, she backed up. I can't remember what the black girl's name is all of a sudden, but Mel, is it Mel? No, I can't remember. No, Liz. Liz is the daughter of the black guy. That's the one who's in VR. I'm talking about. Ava and the black dude there. That's their daughter. I'm talking about the woman who is the leader of the envoys.
Oh yeah. Oh, geez, I don't remember either. Yeah, we didn't talk at all about her.
Is it May
Yeah,
or
she
Mel?
she was like the badass, the badasses in that whole thing.
Yeah.
Because
Anyway,
she was like,
so
she was like the
yeah,
general leader of the envoys, basically.
that's right. And yeah, and
And she would know all the secret elements of what the envoys were going to be dealing with. Well, the ones that survive.
yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with her, because the sister went and she did say that that woman was alive.
Yeah,
not
no,
alive, but
that's what
backed up.
that's why he left. He's going to get her. He's going to find her or something.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the next episode or whatever. The next season is going to be the search for her.
Yeah, and the only way that the only way
they're doing the search for Spock.
And the only way that he's going to get that information is by he's going to have to spin up his sister, probably in VR land, probably in one of those.
Oh yeah, he's probably going to torture her.
Yeah, I don't know about torture. It's still his sister, right? But
yeah, that's true. He does love her,
He'll probably just spin her up and torment her until she gives up the goods. But,
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, going back to that, I mean, the interrogation techniques, I mean, imagine dying over and over and over again, having your memory erased each time.
Not just dying, but having things taken off of you, limbs and things like that, being burned, like being set on fire, experiencing that, and then coming back and having to do it again, like do other things after that.
And over.
You actually experience it, like you feel it, like it feels real.
Yeah.
That's how these people felt in this, in the way that's portrayed.
Yeah.
And, that's just a horrible, horrible way to experience life or whatever.
It's like an artificial purgatory and with no end in sight. You know what I mean?
And you have like an interrogator that just loves to torture you.
It's just, I couldn't imagine something more.
Well, the guy was specific, but yeah, I mean, he was the brother of the guy that Riker killed or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
That was the storyline, and that's the reason why he was being tortured.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. Well, it wasn't Riker; it was Takeshi, but it was the brother that got killed came after him because of something Riker did.
Yeah, but he called him Riker.
I know, because in his eyes he's still Riker, but
that's
the brother came to avenge his.
That killed his brother, not this Riker.
The hotel AI killed his brother.
Right. Well, yeah, but I mean that was essentially because of him, because he came
looking for him. The brother came looking for him.
Yeah, it was that scene when he slapped his hand on it and got the AI to actually take out who was there.
Yeah, he made his purchase, which made him a guest, which made the AI hotel defend his client.
You need to explain that, actually.
Okay, so the AI hotel, our friend Poe, basically said, you have about a minute before the offer expires and just touch the panel, because on the panel you have to pretty much give up your DNA to confirm your purchase. And yeah, I think he spit on it, or did he throw some blood on it or something?
No, he wormed himself over there. He was like kind of on the floor, and then he ended up like kind of fighting, and in the last moment hitting the glass.
Yes.
Where the purchase was.
Yeah.
Where it puts his blood right on the glass, and that makes his purchase. And then he ends up. Then the guns come down and blow the guys away.
2 big machine guns come out of the ceiling and pretty much just shoot up all the bad guys.
Of course, at that moment, I didn't realize this was some guy's brother. When that happened,
well, everybody's somebody's brother.
Yeah, but I mean, when he's being interrogated and he's calling him Riker, I didn't realize that was that guy. That was connected.
We didn't
until later on, another episode.
Yeah, we didn't know the other brother yet. That's why. So the other brother came around afterwards, like after this guy got killed. But all like, see, again,
Yeah,
we
right.
find out later on that the sister set this up. The sister set it up so that that guy was supposed to retrieve Takeshi and bring him to meet her.
Right. Which was all part of the thing, like the reason
Yeah,
why it was
that.
all happening that
So
way. But the
we
whole interrogation thing, that wasn't, I don't think she meant for that to happen.
No, not at all. In fact, he was supposed to have met her already at this point, but he kind of fucked it all up because
Yeah, he kind of went on his own because he was like, "You killed my brother. I'm gonna take you through this this thing," and he wanted him to admit he was Riker.
Yeah, and he didn't know who the hell Riker was at this particular point.
We kept calling him Riker, and he wanted him to. Oh yeah, that's right. You're talking about Kovac didn't know. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Kovac had no
But
idea.
He figured it out. He figured it out.
Well, he figured it out later
In the
after
interrogation process. I think he figured it out.
Yeah,
they hinted like he was aware by the time.
Well, because Ortega wouldn't leave him
beat
alone.
That dude up.
Ortega wouldn't leave him alone. Finally, it dawned on him that she's after whoever had that sleeve last, and that was Riker.
Well, it was also he was able to get out of because he was trained by that woman you're talking about, the envoy, how to kind of get out of VR situations, and they kind of backstory that. That was really neat. I like that. That was really cool how they played that out. I gotta say. The way that it was like mind over matter kind of thing. In the VR world, mind over matter.
Yeah. It was kind of
you are controlling the VR at this point. It doesn't matter what the programming is. You're able to get through it and over it and break out of the things that are because of your mind is succumbing over the reality that you're being faced. It's very interesting on a metaphysical level.
Yeah, it just reminded me of the Matrix and Neo, and there is no spoon and that whole fucking thing.
Well, yeah, I guess you simplify it like that. It's true, but yeah, I was thinking of like on the level of well, in the Matrix, they actually have like programs that download into them, and then they're able to get something from that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is though, is that he controls the Matrix because he sees the code. He can feel and see the code, and then later on in the real, Neo also is able to affect, the squiddies, which implies that even the real is a perceived matrix of its own.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like a ship.
And it's the same thing happening with Kovac in the virtual world,
essentially
space. when he kind of breaks out of his encapturement and then takes out the dude that's
in order to wake himself up.
In reality, the other guy is also in some sort of virtual space. He's not really there, so it's not like he's really dying, although it seems like it kills him kind of in his mind because of his own perception of reality.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. I'm just guessing on that point.
Yeah, no, it's it depends on how you perceive it.
The guy dies. The brother. I think of it. Okay, have you ever seen that movie, old movie, 80s, called Dreamscape?
Yep.
With Dennis Quaid.
Yep, I've seen it. Yep.
Yeah, so you remember how that was portrayed? The idea of while you're in the dream, if you end up dying in the dream, then it kills you in real life.
Yeah, it's the same as in the Matrix.
But the Matrix is not a dream. I'm just saying, like, because it's in your mind. It's like, it's like literally in your mind space.
In Altered Carbon, though, apparently you can die over and over and over again, and it doesn't harm the body. So.
But I think that's part of the whole process of like that trapment of being inside of that little chip thing. That's why you can't die, because you just keep on replaying. It's like a video game, like
it's a file,
like multiple lives, like when you do the whole thing with the back in the day with the Mario Brothers, and you jump on the turtle called Surfer Turtle, and you get like 100 lives from that. So then you'd end up just every time you need more lives, just surf another turtle. You know what I mean? And you end up getting more. It's the same kind of idea. Instead of this, they have to switch sleeves. It's like and to get multiple lives. Like, oh, one up. You know. So
yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. And then inside of the virtual space, it doesn't even matter because there is no actual life. It's just virtually there.
Yeah.
The real life is when they're in a sleeve.
Yeah, I hope they handle the virtual space stuff better in season 2. And I'll tell you why. Because, like I said, whatever your original birth body was, that should be what you project in the virtual space, in my opinion.
I share that opinion. I was baffled by those parts. I mean, because I was like, okay, well, why isn't he like that little kid? You know what I mean? That's what I was like. And then there's parts where he is that little kid being interrogated.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's what threw me off. It's like, okay, well, now you have him as the little kid, but then you have him as Kovac. It's like, how does he get to choose? Or do you choose what body he goes in? You know? And they didn't clear that up for me.
No,
maybe they'll do that in the next one.
They really did gloss over that. And like I said, like, and you know, best example is when the mom comes back. They put the mom in some dude's sleeve, and you know, okay, I see you get that kind of uncomfortable, you know, oh, you know, he's gonna she's going to see her husband or his husband, however you want to put it.
Right.
But when they go into VR space, she should be projecting her image. They had a funny little comment where the kid Lizzie goes and says, "Oh, you did something with your hair," and okay, yeah, that was funny, but the joke could have been avoided.
And I think they're trying to do the trans gender element with that.
That's what I thought too. I think maybe, yeah, that I think
because you know, to show, okay, well, what, you know, for a transgender person being inside of a male but being female on the inside, or the opposite, being male and then being female on the inside, it's like showing that in a way of being able to do it without, you know, just like getting a sleeve. Like, okay, well, I'll just get another person and be that person, and so I don't have to. And they explore that element. They did that also with the shapeshifter.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I think that's where
sleeve.
Yeah, I think that's where politics won over good storytelling, to be fair, because like when the mom went back into VR land to see her daughter, I mean, that would have been a really good reunion with her.
Yeah, bring back the other mom. Bring back the actual mom, like, that died.
Yeah, because I mean, the gentleman, the
messed up death, I might say. Like, it was messed up how she died.
Yeah, sure is.
Or supposedly died, whatever, you know, before taken out her stack, you know, whatever, that kind of thing. She didn't get her stack shot, you know, because that's how they basically real death is they destroy your stack.
That's right. Yeah. Which see, and that's another thing too.
Oh, like, you didn't talk about the Catholic elements.
The which?
The Catholic.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, because some religious people can be coded so they can't be re-sleeved.
Which created a whole entire political element, like what do you call it? Like people with picket signs and stuff, like wearing death faces.
Yep. No re-sleeving, big picket signs, the whole bit. Yeah, there's a lot of protests taking place in the show. People,
and those are basically people that are poor that can't re-sleeve, and they don't want to.
But here's the thing: I have mixed emotions about that, because this technology in the show had to have been around for about 350 years at this point.
Yeah, at least.
Right. Okay. That's one hell of a long protest.
Because the stack technology existed when he was originally in the army.
When he was a kid.
Yeah, when he was a kid, there was stacks.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a pretty long protest. If a protest takes like 350 years to carry out, dude, you're doing something wrong.
Well, we don't know when the protest started. It could have been later.
I'm just saying, though, if it's a religious thing based on sleeving and re-sleeving, and the sleeve and stack technology been out for 350 years, you can bet your bottom dollar that a religious organization is probably going to have the same beef now as it did 350 years ago.
I would agree. Yes.
Logically speaking, but but it did make for some interesting aspects of the politics of the day, though.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and it was interesting visually.
So anyway, pretty much I think we've covered most of the topics that this show provides us, which, like I said, there's a whole lot of stuff in this show. In 10 episodes, I don't think I've seen.
Go through all of it. I'm sure we didn't even spoil everything.
No, I'm pretty sure we haven't spoiled the ending too much.
No. I mean, you'd have to see it in context, and we were kind of jumping all over all around. So so when they when they're actually watching it in sequence, all the stuff that we're saying will make a lot more sense.
Absolutely. And if you've
seen it already.
If you have seen it, then you already know what we're on about, which is the point. Hopefully no one listening to this hasn't seen it, or someone who wants to see it who hasn't isn't listening to this.
Color schemes were definitely red and black too. There was a lot of red and black color schemes, which is Jesuit and or Satanist elements.
Yeah.
For the occult practice watchers out there, look for that. Also Saturn, obviously, and we've already kind of went into that. And then there's a lot of symbols that like pop up here and there, and they're in the background, so you got to watch them. Watch for them.
Well, even the actually, you know what? Let me just
number schemes. The number schemes, big in the gematria. People into the gematria look for the specific numbers that you're used to looking for. They put them in there.
I'll look at something here. Let's see.
Like 74, 47, 33, these types.
Let's see.
I think 88 was in there at one point too. Whenever they show numbers, like visually on the screen, that's what I watch for.
I'm just looking at an image of the stack. I just wanted to check out what shape it's in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's not 5-sided. Okay, I just wanted to see if it was pentagram shaped or not. And it.
Oh no, I don't think so. It was it was an obscure kind of shape. It was almost circular, but then had like edges.
It's got both. Yeah, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and then a rounded side. So it is 5-sided, but it's the one side's more like you said, like almost a circular shape, and then 4 other flattened sides.
Right. That's probably how they stick it in. They stick it in the more sharp points, and then the curvy part is the part that sticks out of your neck.
Yeah, I really don't know. That's the only part to me that's unclear.
There's a couple of moments when you can actually see where it sticks out of the neck or it's inside the neck. When people get shot. And then there's some surgery scenes that you can see it.
There's 2 scenes when they go in there with a knife and just pull the freaking thing out, and
right.
And it's like, well, it doesn't look so easy to take out, so I wonder how easy it is to put in.
I know, right?
But what can you do there? Anyway, yeah. I think we can pretty much wrap up the show for the moment, and like I said to everybody listening, I highly recommend the show. Give it a watch and see for yourself what we're on about. Do you have anything you'd like to add there, Fearporn?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I would say definitely watch it because it's got those sci-fi elements that are, lacking in other stuff, and it's definitely worth a watch on a level of esoteric nature, predictive programming, these types. These are things that we're gonna end up seeing for sure, popping up in other sci-fi stuff. It's gonna feed future like creators.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of copycats.
They're gonna look at it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like how we were talking about Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica originally was like a Star Wars knockoff, with when it was a series, when it was originally in the like early 80s or 70s.
Right.
So that was it's just another element of that happening, and that's going to happen because people that are creative sometimes don't have the creativity they want, and so they take it from other people and they mix it up and it creates other things.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's going to happen with this.
Yeah. Altered Carbon takes the best. I think it takes some of the best concepts that make up cyberpunk. I mean, and does it well. It does it rather clever. It's well shot, well scripted, well acted. The acting is top notch in this, by the way, I have to admit. The esoteric elements.
Did we go into the unicorn, the what do you call it? The rainbow unicorn backpack?
Oh yeah,
that held the guns.
Yeah. This one's for Jeff C.
Yeah, it's for Jeff C. When you watch that, you're gonna flip.
The main character goes out on his first day, back on his feet. He's told to go out and have a night on the town and come back and take this guy's offer to do the investigation. So anyway, he goes into the town and he buys a bunch of drugs off a drug dealer, and the backpack's a pink backpack with a rainbow unicorn on it. It's like a little girl's backpack full of drugs.
Yeah, and then he ends up putting his guns in there.
Yeah,
and kind of using it as a like defensive weapon.
Yeah, he's got this backpack. He's got the backpack through the entire series, like through the whole show.
Yeah, and he's a big guy, so it looks really weird.
Yeah, it looks really funny
because little backpack.
Yeah, he's like 6'5", 6'6". He's absolutely monstrous. He's got this little girl's pink backpack. It's so funny.
So that's connected to the agenda.
Yeah. Rainbow unicorn and all. So, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
I forgot that we didn't mention that. That's so funny.
No, because we talked about it before we went on.
That's right. Anyway, I guess I'll leave everybody with that. Fear Porn, thanks a lot for coming on with me here and talking about this. It was kind of fun to get into.
No problem. Oh yeah, and you never told me that movie that you were telling me about in the past. I think it was Reeker. Was it called Reeker or Raker or something like that? Some sort of. It was like a horror movie with zombies or underground they were like underground dwellers, I think, and they ate people.
Chud?
Not Chud. It was like Chud, but it was like some sort of foreign Chud type of thing, like you were telling me about, and it was like better than Chud.
Oh, crap.
No, not Reeker. Reeker doesn't ring a bell. I thought that was
that doesn't ring any bells right now. I'd have to give that a think.
All right. Well, come back to me on that.
Yeah, I vaguely remember the conversation. I just can't remember which movie it was I was on about. I watch a lot of movies.
Oh well. Anyways.
But
thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for being here. And to the listeners, thank you for listening in. And like, share, and subscribe. Tomorrow night, Fear Porn is going to be joining me on my other channel, on Robert J. Morris, where we're going to be talking about some pretty crazy shit. Basically, what is it? The New Order of Barbarians?
Yeah. I just call it a secret seminar. But basically, yeah. Okay, so like, just to clarify, this came from Never Lose Truth, right? Give her the credit, because she's the one that brought it to my attention. I never heard about it before I got the response, and then she brought it to everybody's attention. So I wanted to bring it to your attention and see what you thought. And when I read it, I was like, oh my God, this is deep. So I figured we needed to do a podcast on it.
Yeah.
And that's why we're bringing it out there, because we don't know if it's real. I'm just going to put that out there, but it seems like
it's
pretty close to what we think of as real.
I've done some looking into this, and this is an actual account by Lawrence Dunnigan, and he's basically gone on the record talking about his memories of Dr. Richard Day speaking at a Planned Parenthood seminar,
which was in secret.
Which is in secret, speaking to about 80 pediatricians, and there was no recordings allowed to be made or nothing. So this is why it wasn't counted until much later. I think the seminar took place in 1969, and it wouldn't be until I think it was 1988 when the tapes were created, and you can actually find the tapes, the recordings.
Yeah, in 91 he got interviewed by like more of a journalist.
Yes, that was another journalist that interviewed him in 91, and you can actually find.
And then they revised the tapes then.
Yeah, you can actually find. You can Google search them or find them on YouTube as well. The recordings are actually out there.
When you when we do the show tomorrow, you need to put that in the description. The link.
Okay.
To that video that you're talking about, and also the link to the document of the transcribed version of that video.
Yeah, the transcribed document, I do believe, is already in the description now. If not, I'll put it in there. I thought I put it in yesterday, but I may.
Yeah, you probably did. It was in the other one.
Right.
So it's already getting out there if people are listening to that. So.
Excellent.
And I put that on my list. So, I mean, I don't have that many people following me, but the people that do, they'll see it.
Excellent. Okay. Well, brilliant. And well, we'll see you tomorrow for sure, and we'll
explore that deeply. I'm excited.
Me too.
Thank you for having me on. This was exciting.
Hey, like I said, thanks for coming out, and everybody else listening, thanks for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.